So today we have Dickson Lim with us at Speaking of Fashion. So let's start with the first question, Dixon. So I would love to sort of understand more about your background and where you're from, because as far as I understand, you don't come from a very traditional, conventional fashion backdrop,
Yeah.
right? So we would love to know of how you got started in this fashion journey, how you sort of, did you always know that you wanted to do fashion, or is it something that you discovered later in your life? So just tell us a little bit more about how you started.
So I don't actually fashion is not my first choice. My first choice was actually to be a movie director. If you guys know, have you guys heard of James Wan? He's like a filmmaker and he's born in Kuching as well. And yeah, I'm from Kuching, and when I saw him made it to Hollywood, it really inspired me like, wow, if James Wan, someone from Kuching can actually make it big in Hollywood. Maybe I can be a movie director too and make it in Hollywood. But for me, I'm not born in a family of like the movie business. I'm born in a family of tailors. So I was actually quite delusional about it until like in college. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be a movie director. But as I grew older, I'm like, you know what, maybe it's not very realistic. So I thought of, maybe since I'm born in a family of tailors, and my family always wanted me to pursue tailoring. I initially hated tailoring. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do this for the rest of my life. It's so boring. But that's what my family always wanted me to do. So in the end, I was like, you know what? I can't be a movie director. Maybe being a tailor is my life. And so what I did was I learned tailoring. And after I learned the basics, I was like, you know what? You know, why not I make it fun
Hmm.
and make it exciting for me and make it something that I want to do every single day. So yeah, that's how I started basically. So I learned the basics and I want to make tailoring fun. And yeah, I would say that's how I started.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
mentioned you were eager to pursue a career in movies. So do you think that sort of interest of your interest in movies and being a film director also somehow translated into being a fashion designer? Do you think there's any connection between the two in terms of your very creative vision or skill set?
I wouldn't okay, I feel like movie and like fashion is definitely like it's the same it's like the same creative field. But I would say my like I mentioned earlier, my biggest inspiration is James Wan, and
Mm.
from someone born in Kuching, make it big in Hollywood. And that also sort of inspired me like, okay, I'm coming from Kuching, but maybe I can be a movie director, maybe I can be a fashion designer. So I would say like I wouldn't say but I would say like the biggest inspiration is like someone I look up to really inspired me that it's not where I'm born that dictates my future, it's what I do with my life or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned you come from a family of tailors.
Yeah.
And also, when we think of tailoring, it's generally very gate kept, right? Tailoring, especially in the West, is always seen as an exclusive elite thing, especially now with so much fast fashion around. The value of tailoring is increasing day by day. It's a very difficult skill set, and most people right now can't like really afford a well-tailored garment. But your approach to it seems to be much more desirable and current for the current generation. So when you're working with a foundation that is traditionally so conservative, how do you manage to make it seem cool?
Uh-huh. Because at first when I pursued like I wouldn't say I didn't plan to be a fashion designer. I just wanted to make clothes fun. And initially when I first started I was basically just recreating designers' pieces because I didn't go to fashion school. So everything I do is like, oh, I really like this designs from LV or Prada. I really like this pants. I really like this jacket. So I was like, you know what? Let me recreate it because buying it costs like maybe $10,000 or $15,000, and I can't afford that. And if I learn how to make I can literally make it at a new skills, like how to say, like learn the construction of design as well. And I still remember when I first made the design I recreated, which is Louis Vuitton designed by Virgil Abloh in his second show. So it was like a really cool blazer, and I made it. And I remember I was wearing it to like this tailoring conference, and everyone was like judging me. They were like, "Why are you making these kind of things? And why
Mhm.
is your sleeve so long?" And even honestly, even my family was like, I would say like they sort of like made fun of me, like, why are you making this kind of things? And nobody would want it. I
Mhm.
mean, at first it's definitely like people would be like, what are you doing? But after I start posting my work online and I start like gaining the attention of like the founder of Fashion Week in KL, in Kuala Lumpur, and they slowly start to change their perception of like tailoring. Like you mentioned, like tailoring is very gatekeep. Everyone who's like, oh no, a suit should be like this. You cannot do it like that.
Yeah.
And coming from like a tailor, I mean, especially in the tailoring world, everything has to follow a certain sets of rule. So when I break them, at first they'll be like, what are you doing? But when people start appreciating what I do, I mean, it's different, yes, but it's different doesn't mean it's bad. And slowly they start accepting what I do. And for those who make fun of me before, and now they'll be like, wow, this kid really got something. So you really just gotta like prove them wrong in a way.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So I think talking more about the clothes a little bit, I've noticed that your even tailoring itself is very masculine in structure, right? Tailoring is a lot about structure. When you think of tailoring, we think of blazers, tuxedos, things like that. But you take those foundations and sort of make them more fluid, almost very sensual, very, it has a slightly feminine touch to it. So I would like love to understand how you balance that because I think balance is important. Like you said, to be in the tailoring world and also make something new, but how do you balance that, the restraint and the sort of cool sexiness, it's in terms of garment construction.
I think what plays a role is definitely, like I mentioned, I'm born in a family of tailors. My
Yeah.
dad does men's tailoring, and my mom does women's tailoring. She does dresses
Yeah.
and things like that. So ever since I was very young, like maybe like 5, 6 years old, I would always follow my parents to work, and I would always watch them work, working with like watching my mom working with laces, doing the beading, making dresses for the clients. So I would say like my upbringing definitely shaped the way I see clothes. It's like for me, I to learn from my dad, like my mom, and it definitely built. Why can't I just merge it, but still maintain like a strong identity? It's not like, oh, this like a men's suit inspired by woman details. It just feels very fluid. Like you mentioned, clothes has like any gender, you can just wear whatever you want. And I
Mm.
also feel like a lot of people say, oh, you should like a lot like I mentioned earlier, like people always say like, oh, tailoring that you have to follow a certain set of rule. But
Mm.
I feel like, we're in 2026 now, and I feel like when people wear something, wear what makes you happy. The only style that actually matters is your personal style. I feel like that's very important. And for me as a designer, it's like I want to create something that excites me, that makes me feel excited to like, oh, I'm really excited to bring this design to life. And I feel
Mm.
like that's how I operate, making design that's fun and making design that's exciting to create for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned personal style. So how closely do you think the brand's aesthetic and design direction reflects your personal style? You think that has a role to play?
Uh, definitely, like the designs I do is definitely a bit more extreme. Because for me, this is what I wear mostly. I
Mhm.
wear like own my own like t-shirt, most like designer wear. But I don't just wear a blank black t-shirt and sweatpants or something. But I
Mm.
like to keep it classy a little bit, wear a little bit of suit. But
Yeah.
of course, when I show up in like events, I do, I have like a full range of designs to pick from. I can just usually wear whatever I want. Anyway, what was the question again? I think I am a bit off track. What
No,
was
I
the
was
question
just
again?
asking about
Oh,
your the
yeah.
correlation between your brand aesthetic and your personal style. So I just wanted to know
Oh,
that is that something, you derive from? Because generally designers tend to derive their design aesthetic from what they would like to wear, especially people who have started their own brand, right?
oh,
It comes from within. So I was just trying, but I think I do see, like I've seen your Instagram and I've seen like your photos and everything. So I do see like you represent the brand pretty well, which is I think very important for a young designer.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that your mother does women's wear tailoring. I would love to know if you ever have any plans of getting into women's wear. I mean, how, if you ever want to do it, or do you just want to focus on menswear?
No, actually, I mean, it's not actually in my previous collection, like the Spring Summer 2026, it was a show I did last year. I actually introduced women's wear. There's like women's blazers, women's trousers, women's look.
Mm-hmm.
And I did because every collection I uh create every year, I always try to like introduce new elements, to keep the brand exciting, to really show progress. Like, oh, every collection there's something new. And but what I noticed is like, because for me, my brand is specialized in like menswear tailoring, and I've noticed that ever since I start to like create like women's wear designs, it just sort of seem like my brand is a bit like out of focus. I don't know. In a way, that's how I feel. But with the new collection, what I'm trying to do differently is like instead of making like a woman's wear cut with like an hourglass shape and things like that, I think I would just like use woman's model and put the men's clothing on the women. So it just shows like, the all the designs are genderless instead of making things specifically for men and women. Yeah, I think that's how, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And one more thing that when we talk about menswear, if I take a point of view of a general person who's not into fashion, like a third person, right? Generally, menswear is looked at as a sort of a limiting design domain, right? Because people just think maybe shirts, blazers, maximum they'll think like a basic sweatshirt or a hoodie. So how do you think is that important for you to change that sort of perception towards menswear? Do you think that sort of mentality plays any role for your design language or your direction?
I wouldn't say like menswear are like very limited though, because I mean I feel like compared to women's wear designer, I feel like there's so much more women's wear designer
Yeah.
compared to like men's. But I feel like designers like like John Galliano, like what he did with like the Maison Margiela, like when you look at the clothes, it's just like so wow. I don't feel like there's any restraint on men men's design language. I think it's mostly based on like what men are willing to wear, because men will always go for something like simpler
Yeah.
compared to like women's. I think it comes down to like a personal taste, and I
Mhm.
think most menswear designer design for men, so they want to create something that they will want to wear in a way. But I feel like there's definitely no restraint on designing menswear, but I think it's mostly based on us as a designer designing something for
Right.
what a man would want to wear, I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, this brings me to another sort of thing that I was thinking about as I was researching your work. And whenever we think of, even if I take like the current sort of list of the emerging designers we have, most of the designers that we see, unfortunately, are from certain countries, mostly from the West. And it's rarely to, especially in the global fashion scene. And now, of course, there has been like a big sort of a push for more emerging designers from various regions of the world. But as you will grow and you'll sort of be a more prominent figure in the industry, how would you want to navigate your cultural identity? Because if I look at it, like maybe we have a lot of designers coming up from Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa. So these are like very emerging markets for the industry. So how would you want to sort of position yourself as a Malaysian designer or your cultural identity? How big of a role do you think that would play in your future?
Okay, okay, like where I'm from is I'm from Sarawak, but I would say most of my designs are not really like deeply rooted in like the culture. I feel
Mhm.
like for me, I just want to make something like hmm, like I don't actually like look at like the culture here for like inspiration though.
Right.
I always look outwards, like the designers who inspire me um like for inspiration. But what I plan to do in the future is because I've been like looking at my surrounding here with the culture with like the Sarawak specialty, which is like the batik motifs, which is like the weaving. I feel like in the future, I definitely want to incorporate that into my design because I feel like it's just such a unique point of view for me to utilize because like I what I notice like the way I'm designing now, like when people see it, I feel like there's no like cultural significance. But I feel like if I get to like infuse my like the how to say like the known like the weaving batik motifs into my design, I feel like it would definitely gives like my design like a fresh take, and it's something
Mhm.
what the Western people audience don't really see. So I feel like it's like a cool concept to like explore in the future, and that's my plan.
Okay, got it, got it. Um, you know, you have been running your brand for almost 5, 6 years now, right? And you've also been running a store alongside that, and you also have such a strong digital social media presence. So, what I want to understand is that, most of the people that will be watching this podcast are going to be people who want to start their own brands, emerging designers, designers who are trying to figure a lot of things out, fashion students. So, I would love to understand what does your day to day look like, for a fashion student who just thinks of, I want to be a fashion designer. But most of the time people don't like really know what being a fashion designer entails, right? Especially like, juggling millions of things. So how do you manage that? How does that work out for you?
Oh, that's a really great question because I feel like every designers operate differently, and then for someone like me who like I didn't have a like a proper fashion education, so everything I do is like what works for me. So what okay, here's how my day-to-day life is like. I wake up in the morning, I will come to work, and the moment I arrive at work, I would start working. I would start like creating the patterns, and there's customer order I have to ship, and there's customer order I have to ship, and I would make more patterns, make more designs, and I would attend clients and I would attend clients. And actually, what I do day to day is actually based on it's actually based on um like for example, like in a year, you can just divide it by 4 quarter.
Mhm.
So 1 quarter, I would mainly focus on designing, like brainstorming every day. I would just get on my iPad and just draw, like design every single day. And then, when it's closer to Fashion Week, then I would start like making more design, doing patterns, cutting, picking the fabrics, selecting the fabrics, buying fabrics online. And it's a lot of trial and error process because I'm from Kuching and I'm from Sarawak, and the materials are very, very limited. So I have to buy everything online. And when I buy things online, and sometimes you notice when it arrives, it doesn't look or feel the
Yeah.
way you imagine it to be. And then, okay, so there's part where I'm just producing, cutting, designing, and like working closely with my artisan, telling him, okay, this is a new design, and this is how you sew it, and this is the details. Don't get it wrong. And sometimes they do get it wrong, especially for like complicated designs and for like first sample, they would
Right.
definitely get it wrong. So, and the workmanship wouldn't be as nice because there's a lot of trial and error. They have to like remove it and stitch it back again.
Mm-hmm.
And then okay, that's like the second quarter, and then the third quarter is where like I do the fashion show, and after the show, it's where I take photos. I have to like call in the models, do a lot of photo shoot thing, and plan a lot of like content like, oh, how do I tell the world I'm releasing a new collection and things like that. And then the next quarter would mostly be a mix of everything. Sometimes I would design, sometimes I would like do the patterns. But what's constant between all 4 quarters is content creation. It's like every day. I mean, that's something I've been putting away for this year because it's just really tiring, when you have to like design, you have to do the patterns, you have to tell the artisans what to do, you have to keep up with the social media trend, you have to think of content. Is this content valuable? Is that will people watch it? Will this go viral? There's a lot of things that you have to juggle around, and sometimes you do really get burnt out, and that's why I haven't been like creating any videos recently because I'm just so tired. It's like when I think of I have to do a video, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's like I'd rather just spend my time cutting the patterns, designing, making new pieces
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. People don't see that. But
Right.
when I work on that, I'm still making progress. It's just that I'm working more behind the scenes. So, and during these periods, of course, there's like ups and downs where sometimes you feel really inspired to do something, and sometimes you just feel like, oh, I'm so lazy. I really don't feel like showing up. But you really just gotta like force yourself to do it. And yeah, so that's
Yeah.
for me, that's how like being a designer is like.
Yeah. No, that's a great insight. And this I was actually gonna ask you how, as a founder, as a person who's running your own brand, fashion designer, I do you think it's an unfair expectations from designer to sort of manage and create so much content? I mean, if you're a fashion designer, you have to give as much time as you spend designing, like you said, it leads to burnout, as you have to focus on content creation. And it's a given now. You like really cannot not do it, right? You have to make content. It's such a
Yeah, yeah.
it's sometimes I feel like a lot of designers are just making content and they're not even designing. But I think it's an unfair expectation. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this pressure to create content and this pressure to be cool and viral on social media is like, compromising or, affecting your fashion design creativity aspect of it? Or do you
Mm,
like doing it? Do you think it's a good balance?
okay, I feel like I wouldn't say it's an unfair expectation because that's expected of every field now. There's
Hmm.
like, for example, the cafe that go viral,
Yeah.
the founder would make video, oh, today, this is what we're doing today. Oh,
Yeah.
this is how we built the cafe, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not just in like fashion design, it's like in every field. You really gotta create content, keep people engaged, connect with your audience.
Hmm.
You gotta like makes build a relationship with them, and so that they'll keep tuning in and say, oh, what is this guy doing now? um and but like you mentioned, like I try to balance both. I focus on the design part, and I also focus on the content creation part. And I think the solution to this is you have to really find an efficient way to do both. So my way is I don't just design one collection at once. So I will design two, three collections ahead so that I feel safe. Like, oh, I wouldn't feel like, oh, after I create this collection, I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do next? What if I get burnt out? I have no ideas. So what I do is that I design a few collections ahead so I feel safe. I get it done, and I feel like I got more time to like think of the content creation, because I feel like content creation it's more like in the now. It's like, okay, I think of this idea and I'll shoot it. But whereas for design, you can design something that you're really proud of, but you can always like release it later. So I feel like finding a balance for both, and I don't think it's unfair. I feel like a good pressure also pushes you to go further, because if you don't get any pressure at all, you'll be too, how to say, like you'll be too comfortable. And when you're too comfortable, it's actually quite dangerous. That's when you feel like, oh, it's chill, it's chill. But
Hmm.
when there's like a good pressure, it always keeps you to like move forward, go forward, go forward, which is good law, which is good in my opinion.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, makes sense. And coming to this whole social media aspect of it, uh, I feel that there are two spectrums to when like let's see how people like are dressing, right? There are two spectrums. Either people are following the trends, like all the trendy micro trends, be it like quiet luxury or clean girl or whatever. People are following trends and then everyone ends up looking the same. And on the other spectrum, I think people have never had this level of choice in the industry. This is, I think, the peak of self-expression and experimentation via fashion that people are experiencing. There are two very extreme spectrums to this sort of concept of personal style. So, how do you think a person as a fashion designer, how do you navigate the shift? Because there are so many trends happening these days that you feel the pressure to sort of create something around those trends. But by the time you create, those trends are over. So, I mean, how do you feel that, following these trends should be something that a designer should do, especially a young designer who's still trying to figure out their own identity? It takes years for designers to like really curate their own design aesthetic. How do you think these trends play a role in that?
Okay, I feel like this is a really good question because I feel like, what makes a designer special is their unique point of view, their taste. It's not about like following trends or oh this is because this is what fast fashion does. They were like, oh, this is what trending now, and then they'll like mass produce it at a cheaper price.
Mhm.
But that's not how like for me, I don't think that's how like a designer should operate. I feel like a designer should operate is like, okay, this is my unique point of view, and this is my designs, uh and and let's see if my design language speaks to you or not. I feel like it's not about following trends. It's about staying true to yourself, staying true to your own unique taste, what you like and what you don't like. And especially if like you actually build a brand with your unique point of view and it's a signal that your taste is worth noticing. So I feel like you shouldn't accommodate to what people want because everyone wants different things. Because I read somewhere it goes something like, when you try to accommodate to everyone, you accommodate to no one. So the best way is to just be true to yourself, be authentic with your design language. Like I mentioned, create designs that inspires you, create designs that makes you feel excited to create. And I feel like people can really, like trends aside, I feel like people can really see the passion behind a creation, in my opinion. Like when you do something, you do it with passion, you do it with love, people can actually feel it. And I feel like that's what makes design special, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. So now when we talk about the designing part of it and we talk about uniqueness, especially in design,
Yeah.
uniqueness is even more valuable now with artificial intelligence everywhere because now you can just generate a photo of a design and objectively like a simple, basic, classic design, right? Like it's easier to execute, mass produce, and bulk produce with AI and with fast fashion and mass production. So, how would a young designer navigate that? Because, like, there's so much pressure. Like, anyone can be a fashion designer, it said, like, and that goes for almost every field. Anyone can be an artist, anyone can be a graphic designer, and anyone can be a writer with AI. But how do you think this AI how do you think it has impacted on the design creativity of your design fashion field?
Okay, I feel like AI, I mean we can't run away from it. It's like the reality we're facing now, AI. I feel like as a designer, we need to learn how to utilize every tools we have and keeping up with, I wouldn't say keeping up with the trends, but keeping up with the technology, like keeping up with the technology, especially in today's world where everything is so fast paced. It's like the changes within the last 5 years is like crazy. So I feel like in the future the changes is definitely gonna get faster and faster. And as designers, we definitely need to adopt and utilize these tools because if not, will get left behind. But in my opinion, like when I design, I don't like I don't use AI to generate me something or blah blah blah. It's like for me, I already know what I want. Like for me, like the human touch in design, for me, I find it is very, very important. It's like for me when I design, I always have an idea, and I would just keep like refining the design until it's good, and like until it's like wow, okay, I'm happy with this. And I feel like, if you just generate something with AI, I feel like it just lost the soul of like the design, like the idea behind the design is just and empty. It's just an empty can. But for me, the way I design is like I always start with an idea and I will just keep refining until I find the design is good enough. Like it's like wow, okay, I'm happy with this. It's like it's all based on like my own
Mhm.
personal taste. And I feel like the process of how like the design came to be is what like, gives a design a soul and a life. And that's not something that can be like generated with AI. So as a designer, I also feel like it's very important to talk about your design, like oh how this design came to be, and this is what inspired the piece, and like the connection when you talk about design, you talk about the idea. That's something that can't the human side of things can't be replaced by
Mhm.
AI. I feel like that's what gives like design a soul. But of course, we have to utilize AI as in refining our words, how we talk about something. When we, especially like with content creation now, like, when you have an idea, but it's all over the place, but you can always use AI to clean up your idea, structure it nicely. And if there's any repetition in, for example, I want to make a video, but this is my idea, I always use ChatGPT to how to say like to note down my ideas, and like I don't even type anymore. I just use like the voice. Okay, this is my idea. This one to make today. The video title is this, and the core idea is blah 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 blah. Okay, can you help me clean up my ideas,
Mhm.
structure it nicely? Is it within a 1 minute? Is it within a 90-second time frame? Like and something like that. So use AI to refine your work, but never use it to replace you. I feel like if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, never
Yeah.
use it to create, but always to sort of add on and, amplify it.
Yeah. To refine your ideas, but
Yeah,
never let it replace your voice.
definitely. Right. So, like I said, a lot of fashions, Vanilla Issue has been a lot about platforming fashion students and emerging designers. But when we talk about a fashion student, you are one of the rare people who have not gone to fashion school but who's built such a successful brand out of it. So, what are your thoughts on that? Would you like say that you're happy about not having a traditional education? Or if someone asks you that should I go to fashion school, what would your answer be? Or do you think it's not needed? You can manage without it.
Mm. Okay, it depends. I feel like this really depends. It's like when you choose a career. Okay, for example, for me, I'm born in a family of tailors.
Hmm.
If I want to if I want to get into the construction business or oil and gas, it's like fairly impossible. It's that I don't have the connections, I got nothing. But
Hmm.
for me, I'm born in a family of tailors. So every time when I follow my parents to work, I'm exposed to sewing machine, I'm exposed to cutting the fabrics, I'm exposed
Hmm.
to everything tailoring, everything sewing. It's very so for me to not go to fashion school, but I still get to learn from my surrounding. So
Right.
every day I learn something new. I get to watch the artisan work. I get to watch my mom work. But if for someone who's who's not connected in like the fashion scene or the tailoring scene, it's definitely harder
Hmm.
because it's like if they're born in a family of like for example, like maybe bakery, like in culinary arts, like
Mm-hmm.
their parents are chef and they want to be a fashion designer, it's quite impossible for them to get into the fashion industry
Right.
without any proper fashion education.
Mm-hmm.
Without any proper fashion education. So, but and also, and I feel like when you do that, they also have to be prepared to work 10 times harder and work really, really hard because every time they want to get every time they have to buy a sewing machine, they have to buy this, buy that. And when they want to produce a sample, everything's gonna cost maybe more expensive if they want to like do a lot of like they have to produce a lot of designs and they have to outsource it. So everything becomes more expensive. They have to work 10 times harder. They have to sew all day, all night. They just gotta be prepared to work 10 times harder in my opinion if they're not if their family or their connections is not rooted in like the
Right.
fashion scene. But for me, it's like my unfair advantage is I'm born in a family of tailors
Yeah.
and I picked a career. It's like this is the cards I'm dealt with and I'm making the most out of the cards I'm dealt with. So it's easier for me. I wouldn't say I don't work hard, but I still work hard. I work really, really hard to get to where I am. When I first learned tailoring, I also create the patterns from day to night, every single day. I would apprentice in a different tailor shop in a different city just so I can learn tailoring. And you know how like people always like when you listen to the stories of like the older generation, they say, "Oh, I have to walk to school to learn or blah blah blah." And that's literally what I did. Because I don't want to waste my parents' money. I don't want to like ask so much from my parents. So when I apprentice in like from a with a master tailor from a different city. I just got like a really cheap hostel, and every morning I would shower and I would walk to the tailor factory. And the moment I arrived there, I would be drenched in sweat. It was so hot, and I would work there from day to night every single day. I would create patterns. So I mean, I work hard, but I feel like if you're not connected in the fashion scene, you be prepared to work like 10 times or 100 times harder. But and also there's actually another way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're famous, you're a content creator, you got a huge, massive following, you don't even have to like learn tailoring. You don't even have to go to fashion school. You don't even have to do any of those. You can just always hire someone to do it and just create a great PR around your image that I'm a designer
Mm-hmm.
and you're connected to all the celebrities. You can just seed your designs to the celebrities. There's three ways. For me, you either connected already, like for me, I'm born in a family of tailors.
Mm-hmm.
And another way is you go to fashion school, but you gotta work really hard. And another way is you're a content creator, you got a big following, you can just do whatever you want at that point. So I also want to add, um, if you're yeah, I mean if your family is like really wealthy, you can also get into the fashion scene. So there's many
Yeah.
ways to get into the fashion scene. There's not just like one way.
Right.
Yeah.
But luckily for you, fashion and tailoring is in your blood. So
Yeah. It's definitely easier for me. I wouldn't say easier. I mean it's easier, but I still work really hard. Really, really hard.
you were born with that education, so you don't need that, is what I'm
Yeah,
taking away. Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So, I think one last question from my end is that, people often romanticize the fashion industry a lot. Like, fashion designer, Paris Fashion Week, London Fashion Week, it's always like very glamorous. And being a fashion designer itself, even if you look at some of the biggest fashion designers we have, like John Galliano, Ralph Simmons, they're very romanticized, but people often miss out on the day to day. So, is there anything that you like, is there any moment where you felt that, oh my God, this is like So intense. I'm sure you've had a lot of those, but fashion is so glamorized that it often, I've seen a lot of people, not just as a designer, but even if someone is working in fashion PR or fashion communication or a merchandising role, they often take like a hit when they start working in fashion that, oh my God, this is like a lot of work. This is like a proper thing. People often have this idea that it'll just be like champagne in the night and, cafes in the morning, but it's a lot more than that. So how would you do you think that you have had that moment where you have like realized that fashion is so, as an industry, the fashion industry is pretty brutal?
Mm, pretty brutal. Wait, sorry, sorry. Would you mind to repeat it again?
Yeah, sure. So what I am trying to ask is that fashion is generally very glamorized and, fantasized about, that people often have this very sort of dreamy idea of what working in fashion is, not just as a designer, but in any other field. But do you feel that that is true? Do you think you have had any moment where you've realized that, this is like a very sort of intense or almost like a ruthless industry? Do you feel that, or do you think it's um easy for you to navigate that?
Hmm. Okay, I wouldn't say like the fashion industry is uh um brutal because I feel like in the end of the day, like fashion is clothes. It's not something like food, something that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, for me as a fashion designer, it's definitely a bit hard to like, how do you convince people to buy your designs? You get what I mean? It's like, because it's not, for me, I don't know. I see clothes, it's not something like a need. It's more of like a want. Because I feel like, but the challenge I'm facing now is also mostly like, it's like how like fashion without a big budget or like without a big budget to advertise or especially for like independent designers, you don't have like a big budget to like hire the top models, top
Mm-hmm.
celebrities to wear your clothes, so you get like the maximum exposure or like you're not friends with like Justin Bieber or like Kylie Jenner, where if they wear something, it will get sold out instantly. So I feel like as an independent designer, it's definitely harder because you really gotta like instead of like using big budgets to like advertise your designs, you really gotta like your only strength, like your only unfair advantage is like your I would say like maybe your passion or your Hmm. Okay, something I would definitely think is like a little I wouldn't say it's brutal, but I would say it's very challenging because especially in today's world, in social media, everyone's a designer. Every day there's like new designers coming up. Like like so many. It's not as exclusive as it was before, where it's like the barrier of entry is very high.
Mm-hmm.
Where like now everyone who can sue, who can create, post their work it's like everyone's a designer now. So it also adds into like for the consumer, they'll be like, every day I see new designs, and it also, you know what it did? It also shortened the shelf life of all your creation. It's like when you create this design, and the next day people see something new, and then your design is like, oh, it's kind of like expired already. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I feel like people don't. Um, I just feel like the how do I put it? It's like the shelf life, or like people just get bored of things a lot
Right.
faster now, and that can definitely okay. I feel like fine. That's kind of brutal. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you spend months on creating something, and for people, they just like want like they just see on social media like a few seconds. Oh yeah, it's like you get what I mean. It's like your
Yeah.
all your hard work is just like oh okay. It's like it just sort of makes how to say it just sort of like makes people don't like not appreciating design as much
Right.
anymore, especially with like the people attention span today. I feel like it definitely plays a part as well. Like people want fast content, everything they want fast. How do you deliver to me? Fast, they want it fast and they want it they want their dopamine to be like spiked up a lot. And that but you don't really get that by
Mm-hmm.
looking at design. I mean, of course, those who really appreciate designs do, but for the general audience, they would rather spend their time like doom scrolling, watching funny videos, the memes, because those are the things that get promoted by social media platform. And for someone like me who do like fashion design stuff, you don't get like thousands or like 10K, 20K of shares compared to like those funny videos.
Mm.
Like though it's like so I feel like it's definitely like the challenge is definitely like how do you stand out despite all the noise. So
Right.
I feel like that part is definitely quite challenging. So what I'm doing is like I'm really trying to like build a connection in my audience and really trying to provide value of like the fashion like the I mean this I'm actually like I recorded some videos on like because I actually stopped making videos for a while. And when I start making videos again, it just sort of gives me like a fresh perspective. So what I'm trying to do is like I'm really trying to like provide value for people. Although maybe it's not like the funny content that people will like, they're
Mm-hmm.
like with thousands of reposts, but hopefully, hopefully I still get to like provide value, provide insights on what it takes to actually be a fashion designer
Right.
or just educating people on how things actually work.
Right.
Uh, yeah,
Think
I
that's
get.
very important because funny content is just literally right. I mean, no one
Yeah,
it doesn't add any value to your life.
but that's what the
Yeah,
algorithm
yeah,
push. But that's the game, and
yeah,
we just gotta play by their rules. So we can't do anything about it.
yeah. Okay, great. Okay, one last question I have is that I was looking through Instagram. There's one piece that I thought was like really stood out for me. And I would love to know if you have any favorite piece of from your own work that like, really resonates with you. Maybe it's, something that is emotionally connected to you or anything like that. Any one piece that you think that is stands out
See
for you.
let me see what it's here. Oh wait, I don't think it's here. Okay, but I do have a lot of standout pieces. So I do have a lot of favorite.
Mm,
But so every collection I create, there's always one black look that is like a more like statement piece. Yeah, like a more statement piece. But
mm,
what I have here, I think let me see this one. That is like a statement piece that I did as well. Wait, hold on, let me see. Hold on. Wait. Wait. Hold on.
no issues, no
Did
issues.
this do it? Um, actually, I do have a lot of statement.
You can just tell us about it and we can add a photo later if you want.
Sure, sure. Okay, so okay, I would say one of my all-time favorite design that I've ever created is called the sword blazer because for me that design is very special to me because I wanted to reintroduce what a suit can be. For example, the jacket usually have like the lapel here and the buttons on the waist. But with that design, I basically scrapped all those rules and did it my way. So I added the closure on the chest here, and the lapel is not on the collar, it's actually on the bottom. So it goes from the bottom to up,
Oh,
and the buttons is here, and it's actually like a two piece that you can actually detach the bottom piece,
oh,
and it can be like just a crop chest jacket,
mm,
but when the bottom piece is attached it shows like the it becomes like a full blazer, like deconstructed, and when the closure overlaps between one another it creates this really interesting shape that looks like a sword. And you know like for me, it's not just about like designs. Like for me, the construction is not just about like design with holes. It's I try to create interesting shapes by intersections and things like that. That really gives like the whole design depth and structure. Because for me, what makes a good design is not is also what makes a good design is also what makes a good design is I want it to be challenging to create. I want the design to deserve to be like wow. When people look at it, they'll be like wow, like a second look, which is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one, I mean, I would say maybe it can be subjective, but I would say timeless because I designed that the piece in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at it now, it still feel very fresh, very timeless. And I feel like that's part of my design language is I want to create designs that's challenging, that deserves a second look, but timeless is very important as well. And how I know the design is timeless is like I mentioned earlier, I designed a few collections ahead. And the next year, when I look at the design, if it still feel like wow, it still feel fresh for me, I feel like that's what makes it a good design and it filters through my mind and that's not something that can be done by AI, I feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the sword blazer is definitely one of my all-time top favorite design. It really represent what my brand Dickson Lim represent, which is, classic tailoring reimagined with an unexpected twist. I'd like to sum it up in one word,
Mm-hmm.
in one sentence, it would be that.
Okay, amazing. Definitely. That's amazing. Okay. So, I think that's pretty much it from our end. I think we're done with all the questions, and I think we've gotten all we needed. And I really loved speaking to you. So let's.
Really? Thank you, thank you. I
Oh,
hope
amazing.
hopefully I did well.
No, you did amazing.
Uh,
Amazing. And so let me just sort of end this once for the recording. Yeah.
for sure.
So, thank you, Dixon, for all the answers. We really loved speaking to you at Speaking of Fashion. It was an amazing journey to learn about how you started with, tailoring is in your blood, like you said. And, we really loved to see how you navigated that sort of journey that you started out on in fashion. And I think this will really help a lot of emerging designers to sort of get an insight into what it is to run a brand, what it is to run a store, how to get started, and especially for someone who is wanting to do tailoring. I think it's going to be a great episode for them. So thank you so much for your time. We
Thank
really
you. Thank you, Shreya. Thank you so much for having me as your first guest. It's truly an honor. So when Kelvin reached out to me, I was like, wow, really? I'm truly like honored. I'm truly honored.
No, I think the honor was all ours. We really loved speaking to you, and thank you
Thank you.
for sort
Thank
of
you.
giving us the time, giving us your time. Really means
Of
a
course,
lot.
of course.
Okay.